people arrive at a different conclusion. But I think in social and natural selection, he is trying to say that much of sociology and much of economic thought of 1950s, 60s was somewhere based on the theory of evolution, selection. The whole modernization theory is of that kind, laissez-faire. Don't interfere in the market. Why should you not interfere in the market? Because the nature or the social processes themselves will take care of everything. And it's a law of nature that those who are fittest, they survive. It's a kind of war of all against all. And in this war of all against all those who are found to be the fittest, they survive. But then sociologists may ask a number of questions. Is it true that fitness can be defined only in terms of survival? Can we say that only those people, groups, communities, values, ideas which survive are the fittest ideas for mankind? If Alexander or if Genghis Khan invaded a large part of the world and established their monarchy, and they ruled a large part of the world at one time. Does this mean that the values that they followed were the right value? If in this context, I remember of another event. The Jews have always been tortured in Europe. In the known history in 13th century, Hitler's putting Jews in gas chamber was not the isolated event in history. Somewhere I was reading that in 13th and 14th century, a big plague broke out in much of Africa, Europe, Asia, Mongolia, China, this whole area. And since at that time, Jews were the trading community, and plague was the disease of trade and commerce. It was called the disease of trade and commerce because plague will spread through caravans, trading communities. Fire and horses, the flea of plague will not survive horses and fire, but ships which were carrying goods, soldiers, traders, were a breeding ground for the fleas, for rats, for mouse that spread plague. So cities, trading routes of Africa, Europe, they were the major areas affected by plague. And in those days, then because of association of plague with trade, a feeling developed in several countries, Christian-dominated countries of Europe, and in some parts of Asia, wherever Christians were in majority, that the plague is due to Jews. And there are instances in which Jews were taken outside the fort or outside the city and burnt alive. There have been instances in which, because of plague, thousands of Jews for several days were burnt alive by Christian cities. So what happened in Hitler's time was not a new thing against Jews. For the reasons associated with plague in 13th century, 14th century in several cities, thousands of Jews were burnt alive by taking them outside the city limit, because people feared that plague was spreading because of the trading community of Jews. Now, can we say by reading such events that it is okay if Christians burn Jews alive to protect themselves from the spread of plague? If survival is the only thing, and the fittest people survive, then everything is justified. But sociologists say, first of all, that survival alone is not or should not be defined as fitness. It may be a fact, but it should not become a norm. It cannot, for human society, it cannot be a matter of norm. One can say that Chinese are the fittest people, which captured the whole Tibet, a large part of Tibet. And I was telling you the other day that by killing number of monks ranging from 2 lakh to 10 lakhs, if this is fitness, the Chinese proved to be the fittest race by spreading their empire and making their communist regime strong. And maybe today China is giving fight, economic fight, political fight, nuclear fight to all other powerful countries of the world. If this is what fitness means, does mankind require this kind of definition of fitness? This is one question. And do values, ethics, virtues, compassion, has Gautam Buddha become irrelevant? In social progress, in progress of mankind, then should we forget about Gautam Buddha? Should we forget about Mahatma Gandhi? And should we forget the 10 commandments of God, or God's son, or God's messengers or representatives? So this is, and second, can fitness be defined only at the physical or materialistic level, or intellectual, cognitive and emotional and spiritual aspects not so important? These are the questions that Gisbert raised in that chapter on natural and social selection. So the idea, what I understood by reading this is there is an attempt to reject those theories according to which survival in materialistic sense is defined, and which rejects human values in favor of those values which lead to survival or prosperity or creation of wealth, generation of wealth, or victory of the whole world type. Imperialistic powers, imperialistic ambitions. It rejects imperialistic ambitions and seems to be in favor of a more virtuous or socialist or communist kind of society. Now, another topic, I don't see the connection between the two, this idea of natural and social selection and the idea of urbanization. But there is some discussion on urbanization. So I will spend some time on this urbanization and cities. Everywhere we make a distinction between urban and rural areas, and we say that urban or urbanization, a process by which proportion of population living in urban areas is increasing. Urbanization is a process by which proportion of population living in urban areas increases, or it's a process, urbanization, a process of population concentration. In the beginning of the last century, say around 1901, 10%, slightly more than 10% of India's population was living in urban areas. And in 2011 census, the last census we held last year, we found that close to 30% of India's population is now living in urban areas. More people are, proportionately, more people are living in urban areas today as compared to 1901. In last 110 years, proportion of population living in urban areas has increased from 10% to 30%. So we say that a process of urbanization is on. And for students of sociology, urbanization is one of the very important, very basic processes of social change. And in almost all studies of social factors, social change, or any social analysis, you find that urbanization is likely to be a major factor. Everything is determined by urbanization. What is urbanization? According to Gisbert, cities of large size, say where 50,000 or more people are living, those places are called or can be called urban. But let me give you our own Indian census definition of urbanization. When I say that in India 30% population is living in urban areas, what defines urban locality? In 2011 census in India, two definitions were used. There were some statutory urban areas, seats of local administration, all those places which have a seat of local administration, a large municipal corporation, a smaller municipality, a town area committee, a notified town area committee, cantonment boards, railway colonies, which have a local seat of administration. They are called statutory urban areas. All those places were defined as urban areas. So going by that definition, Kanpur is urban, Bombay is urban, Lucknow is urban, and notified town area committees are also urban, and railway cantonment boards are urban, cants are urban. If this A is not satisfied, Then we look for some other characteristics. They are called demographic characteristics. And in demographic characteristics, if size of population is more than 5,000, Gisbert talks of 50,000, but according to Census of India, all those places where 5,000 or more people live can be classified as urban. Density. Density means population divided by area. Density more than 400 per square mile or 1,000 per 400 per square kilometer or 1,000 per square mile. If the density of population is 400 per square kilometer or 1,000 per square mile, if in an area of 1 kilometer, 400 people are living. In urban area, density of population is more. Villages are small in size and more scattered. Urban areas are bigger in size and more densely populated. So in an area of 1 square kilometer, if 400 people are living, or which amounts to in 1 square mile 1,000 people are living, then also we define that locality as urban. And third, if 75% of male labor force, not the total, male labor force is engaged in non-agricultural activities. Non-agricultural means manufacturing, industrial, or in health, insurance, which are called service industries, service activities, education, then also the locality may be defined as urban. Size of population 5,000, density 400 per square kilometer or 1,000 per square mile, and 75% of male labor force engaged in non-agricultural activities. Then such localities are classified as urban. And according to the last census, 30% of India's population is living in urban areas. Then there is further classification of large cities or agglomerations, a group of large cities like Bombay, Pune, several cities, several towns together comprising Calcutta metropolitan city, urban agglomeration, Bombay urban agglomeration. Now Lucknow, Kanpur are getting almost joined, very much similar to Bombay, Pune. So Hyderabad, Secunderabad, there are large urban agglomerations. Now what are the, from sociological point of view, there are very large differences between urban and rural areas. And there are certain causes of urbanization, and there is a debatable issue whether urbanization leads to modernization. Most of the people tend to take this view that urbanization leads to modernization and development. There are tremendous difference between urban and rural areas in terms of education. The level of literacy in urban areas is much higher than the level of literacy or education in rural areas. The gap continues. In the beginning there was a great gap, And through government planning, that gap is narrowing down, but still there is a gap. All the secondary schools, tertiary colleges, universities, professional institutes, engineering, management, they're all located in cities. And the degree of literacy and degree of educational development in urban areas is much higher than in rural areas. Urban areas have more diverse population, diversity. Rural areas are more homogeneous. In a village, you find that most people have similar language, similar faith, similar lifestyle, similar economic activities, similar standard of living, similar size of family, and most people of the village are exposed to similar chances of risk of dying or remaining healthy. Village population is more homogeneous and therefore more cooperative. To use a milder terms, villages have mechanical solidarity because they are all alike, similar. In urban areas, in every respect, the population is more diverse. In urban areas, you can find people who do not want to produce any child, and in urban slums, you still have people producing 8 or 9 children, which is the characteristic of traditional rural population. In urban areas, you have some people for whom life expectancy is as high as for European countries, and some people for whom death rates are still very high. In urban areas, you find people speaking various languages, dialects. In urban areas, you find people from all castes and communities, all cultural groups. In Delhi, you find all cultures, Indians and foreigners, and from within India, all cultures, all languages, all communities, all castes, all occupational groups, from agricultural to software, everything, manufacturing, household industry, shopkeepers, traders, transporters, petty bourgeois, clerks, superintendents, executives. In urban areas, you have a mix of occupational activities. So diversity. Urban areas more educated, more diverse. Urban areas have better infrastructure. And in rural areas, you have poor infrastructure. Good connectivity, poor connectivity. You know, if you want to go from Lucknow to Calcutta or Kanpur to Calcutta, from Lucknow to Calcutta or Kanpur to Calcutta by air, less than 2 hours. From Uttar Pradesh to West Bengal, you want to go Kanpur to Calcutta, it takes less than 2 hours. And within the state, if I want to go to my native place, which is very much in UP, it will take me around 20 hours. Because from here to though my native place is not a rural area, it's a district headquarters. But to go to Bijnor from Kanpur, I will have to take a bus or train to Lucknow, wait at Lucknow railway platform. There is only one train which passes through my native town, Otherwise, from Lucknow, I will take some Dehra Express or some other train which passes through my district and get down at some place, Kiratpur or Haridwar or somewhere, and again take a bus. Now, rural areas, the nature of development has been such due to colonial policies of British government that urban areas are connected. Connectivity between Calcutta and Madras, Madras and Bombay, Bombay and Calcutta was much better through railway lines, air, and connectivity of rural. This is actually a major factor in backwardness of rural areas. Poor connectivity, poor roads, poor infrastructure, poor light, very poor light in rural areas. So industry cannot develop. Cottage industry, household industry, big industry cannot develop. It's not viable to run industry. A traditional kind of industry, it's not viable to run traditional industry on generators or mobile oil. So industrialization does not take place in rural areas. Family is different, culture is different. In urban areas you find all kinds of religions celebrated, of Indian origin, outside Indian origin. In urban areas you have Mother's Day, even 2-3 days before I was reading that there was Widow's Day, all kinds of days, Mother's Day, Father's Day, Widow's Day, Friend's Day, New Year, Valentine's Day. Apart from Holi, Deepavali, Eid, 2 Eids, and Good Friday, apart from those things you have so many festivals. Urban areas are diverse. So through cultural context, diffusion, you have all kinds of processes, tendencies, and structures, rural area. I can keep on talking about this, but I think that you understand the difference between urban and rural areas. So urban areas are more developed, they have better infrastructure, better connectivity, better education, better electricity, better housing, and more diversity, and all intellectual, political, they are the seats of intellectual, political, social powers. Among urban areas also there is concentration. So today, because of forces of concentration, all kinds of good things are concentrated in Delhi. At one time, many good things occurred in many other metropolitan cities or large towns or cities. At one time, Allahabad was the big center of Allahabad and Varanasi, of literary and intellectual activities. Many of our great Hindi writers came from that belt, Varanasi, Allahabad. But today, even Hindi literary activities are concentrated in Delhi. If you want to earn name and fame in any area, then living in Delhi places you in more advantageous position. If you are a faculty member in IIT Kanpur, and if you are a faculty member in Delhi University or Delhi School of Economics or JNU or IIT Delhi, it matters. If you are in social sciences, if you are in JNU, you immediately become visible. Not that everybody is visible, but it puts you in an advantageous position. By working much less, if you are placed in JNU or if you are placed in Delhi School of Economics, you become more famous. And if you are working in IIT Kharagpur, IIT Guwahati, IIT Kanpur, then you work more, but you will not be known. Because you are away from the networks of power. You do not have the social capital. In remote areas, in rural areas, in remote areas, even in lesser urban areas, cities of lesser importance outside the capital city, you are in a slightly disadvantageous position. So this explains why people are moving from rural to urban areas. There are two causes of urbanization. Urban population can increase through natural increase, which means births minus deaths. There are two sources of expansion of urban population: births minus deaths. This is called natural increase. And migration. Urban areas are often growing at a rate 4% per year or more. Bigger urban areas are growing at fast rate. The reasons are two: natural increase. 50% of their growth occurs because of natural increase. If rural areas are growing, say, at 2% per year, in absence of migration, urban areas will also be growing at 2%. Though such things cannot be generalized. Birth and death rates differ from region to region, town to town, village to village. But in overall terms, to simplify the matter, I can say that there are only two factors in growth of urban population: natural increase and rural to urban migration. Natural increase is birth minus deaths, and nearly 50% of the growth of urban population is due to natural increase and 50% due to migration. And migration, again there are so many theories, but one major theory which is also referred to in sociology textbook like this: push-pull theory. According to this push-pull theory, people are either pushed from rural areas because of adverse conditions, or they are pulled by urban areas because of certain attractions. The push factors of rural areas may include poverty, unemployment, natural disasters, devastations, traumas, conflicts, inequality, caste conflicts, or uncertainties of vagaries of nature, uncertainties of agricultural productivity, underemployment, or lack of schooling facilities, lack of electricity, lack of roads, lack of health conditions, lack of good doctors and hospitals. These are the factors because of which rural population is moving towards urban areas. Employment is a big factor, but importance of other factors also cannot be denied. In censuses of 2001, 2011, Registrar General India has also asked a question on region of migration. And we have detailed tables which show why do people move from rural to urban areas. Employment is a major factor, for males at least, because for women the migration is caused more by marriage migration. You know that in Indian society marriage is caste endogamous and village exogamous. You marry in the same caste but outside your village. So after marriage almost all women become migrants. That has nothing to do with employment or education or anything. But in case of males, if you analyze data of males and females separately, you find that among males, employment is the major reason of migration. Among females, marriage is the major reason of migration. For us, for connecting urbanization and development, employment as the region of migration is more important. So we can rely more on migration data for males. So push-pull theory. This is the cause. In cities, education, health facilities, equality, anonymity for people belonging to, say, low caste in rural areas. They suffer from loss of social prestige because of their low caste. If they come to urban areas, nobody is interested in caste. So urbanization also leads to great creation of greater equality or removing inequality of social status. So people move towards urban areas and urbanization increases. Urbanization by Government of India is also seen as an indicator of development. And by social scientists also in many studies of development, urbanization, proportion of population living in urban areas is seen to be an indicator of development. Though sometimes, as in this book, a distinction is made between different types of cities. Large cities, a distinction is made between Eopolis. Eopolis means early city, a new city. Metropolis, metro means ruling. Delhi is a metropolis in that sense, ruling city. Tyrannopolis, tyrannical city. I don't think that in India any city would like to be qualified by this term, tyrannopolis or tyrannical city. Though looked at from a certain perspective, some economists such as Michael Lipton say that the most basic form of conflict in countries like India is the urban-rural conflict. And urban areas are exploiting, rural areas are getting exploited. The gap between urban and rural areas is widening. And simple statistics show this, that proportion of people in rural areas dependent on agriculture is not declining that sharply. 70% or so of rural population in India is still dependent on agriculture. But the contribution of urban and rural areas to GDP, gross domestic production, has become highly unequal. Contribution of rural areas in GDP has declined sharply, and contribution of urban areas and of industry has increased very sharply. And that shows that the gap in quality of life of city dwellers and rural population is widening. Macropolis. For a long time there was a debate whether Calcutta is a dying city. Overpopulated, no new employment opportunities, no industry. Calcutta was portrayed as a kind of dying city. So cities are also of various types. Traditionally in India, our cities were mostly religious cities or fort cities. Most of your cities of ancient India or of medieval times were political cities or administrative towns or religious towns. Allahabad, Prayag was a religious city, Varanasi was a religious city, and gradually our cities are becoming more of industrial type. Agra was a capital city of certain dynasties for some time, and Jaipur, Jodhpur, they were political cities where some people ruled for some time. Ajmer, religious city, political city. But today, the most of the important cities are becoming industrial cities or political cities, capital towns, industrial cities, or in post-industrial cybernetic age, then there are IT cities. Bangalore is, for example, an IT city, software city. So Bangalore is expanding. During last 10 years or so, Bangalore and Delhi, these are the cities which increased at the fastest rate. Delhi because of political nature, capital city, and Delhi is not only a capital city, Delhi is the center of almost all valued things. Trading, marketing, politics, literature, sciences, everything. Everything is located in Delhi. So Delhi is a very powerful city. Now there is a debate in sociology whether urbanization leads to modernization and development. Some people think that urbanization leads to development. But again, as on any other topic, there will be a debate on this issue. And one position, there are two positions on this. One is standard position by sociologists such as Kingsley Davis, which show that there is a high correlation between urbanization and economic development. And by demonstrating that there is a high correlation between economic development and urbanization, which is true at the international level, national level, regional level. Internationally, the most industrially advanced countries of Europe, Northwestern Europe at the top, then Southern Eastern Europe, United States, Australia, New Zealand, and Japan and Taiwan and Singapore, industrially most advanced countries are also most urbanized countries. And Africa, South Asia, and in relative terms countries of Latin America, which are economically less advanced, they are also less urbanized countries. So Kingsley Davis makes a correlation between the two, and then Kingsley Davis demonstrates how urbanization becomes a vehicle of economic development. Because of education, infrastructure, economy of scale, different norms, diversity, different psychology of people, different culture, different milieu, a high level of need for achievement, rationalization, modernization, modernity of outlook, because of variety of factors, and money obviously, investment. Urbanization leads to development, and such people will advocate that we must have higher levels of urbanization. India must increase its level of urbanization. One analyst from JNU, Kundu, a well-known economist, social scientist, he even argued that government of India is so desperate to raise level of urbanization in India that they made use of certain tricks in defining urbanization so that to the world community they could show that urbanization has increased at a fast rate. There was a danger that 2001 to 11 change of urbanization will not be much. But through manipulation of definitions, the government of India was able to project that India is urbanizing at a very fast rate. This may be an extreme view, but this shows that there is one kind of thinking among some people that relationship between urbanization and economic development is very close. There is other thinking, you may call it a socialist thinking, which shows that urbanization in countries like India demonstrates certain characteristics. One, over-urbanization. India is over-urbanized. Although, how can it be over-urbanized when only 30% population is living in urban areas? When this over-urbanization thesis was given by an economist named Sovani, India was much less urban, but he said that India is over-urbanized. The meaning of over-urbanization was that if you compare different countries, then at the level of economic development at which India is today, at the level of economic development at which India finds herself today, when today's developed countries, industrially advanced countries, highly urbanized countries, when they had the same level of economic development, then they were much less urbanized than India is. At the same level of development at which India finds herself today, when industrially advanced countries were at the same level of development, they were much less urbanized. And therefore, India, there is a disjunction between economic development and urbanization. India is much more urbanized than those countries were at parallel levels of economic development. What is the reason? The reason is that people are coming to urban areas not because of pull factors of urban areas, but more because of push factor of rural poverty, unemployment, natural disasters, frequent conflicts, lack of safety, security in rural areas. Living in rural areas is becoming more difficult. The ideal villages which you find in literary books of native languages, that ideal village does not exist anywhere. Gandhiji's village of his dream, Gandhi wrote, "Village of my dream." Gandhiji's village of Gandhiji's dream is a dream, it does not exist anywhere. Real life conditions are so bad in rural areas that whether they get any employment in urban areas or not, they will at least come and try their luck. So it's more because of rural poverty or push factors rather than pull factors operating in urban areas that people are moving away from rural areas. They are going towards urban areas and large cities in search of employment, large cities. And therefore, a well-known demographer, economist of India, Ashish Bose, who coined the acronym BIMARU states for Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, and his acronym became very famous. It has gone into journalism, sociology textbooks, economics textbooks, BIMARU states. He identified that there is lot of pushback in India. Pushback. People are, originally people talked of push and pull. Push operating in rural areas and pull in urban areas. But there is a lot of pushback, means people come to urban areas to try out their luck because they are pushed from adverse conditions of rural life. They stay in urban areas, and when they cannot adjust there, when they cannot find employment or when they cannot find suitable employment, a decent minimum wages, good working conditions, or they cannot find a house there, or they cannot have social capital, network of relationships, friends. They do not have social support. So after spending 5-10 years or even less, they are pushed back to rural areas. And in this situation, another characteristic of over-urbanization thesis is that all your cities are kind of dual cities. Dual cities means that all cities are divided into two parts, a progressive part, a more developed part, and a backward part. Because urbanization has not become a vehicle of change in India, urbanization, there is no conjunction, there is rather a disjunction between economic development and urbanization. And using Michael Lipton's theory, urban areas are exploiting rural areas. So in this milieu, you have a dual character of cities. So in cities, you find one part, you may call it new city. In new city, you find affluent colonies, multi-story buildings, trade and commerce, malls, offices of corporate sector. And this new city may look like a European city. And on the other hand, in each city, you have an old part. The old part is traditional. It's not, in terms of characteristics of urbanization or modernization, it's not urban or modern at all, it's rural. So some people use the term rurban. It's urban for namesake, but in characteristics it is rural. So Indian cities have a large part of rurbans. Urban population with rural characteristics. In terms of languages, dialectics, work, networks, families, culture, religion, belief systems, magic, witchcraft, supernatural beliefs, health practices, they are rural, but they are living in urban areas. So one part, the old part, New Delhi, old Delhi. New Hyderabad, old Hyderabad. New Bangalore, old Bangalore. I visited Bangalore and, several times, and I saw that inside the Bangalore, there are areas, if somebody had left me in those areas without telling that I am in Bangalore, I will think that I am in my native town, Bijnor. So Bangalore is not totally, Bangalore does not mean that the whole city is developed. There is a new Bangalore, information city, and there is old Bangalore. Condition of South Delhi, old Delhi, very different. Old Kanpur, Chamanganj, Bekanganj. I think you have not had opportunity to go to Chamanganj and Bekanganj. Someday you go and see what kind of Kanpur that is. And there is another Kanpur which is the Kanpur of civil lines, Aryanagar, Sarupnagar, and malls. So basically, now time is over. So what I wanted to say, that on the issue of relationship between urbanization and economic development, these are two ideas. According to one idea, urbanization is an indicator and also a vehicle of economic development. And according to the other idea, there is in the context of less developed countries at least, urbanization and economic development are not associated, and rather they have over-urbanization. So that is the reason why around 2003, our President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam gave the concept of Pura, P-U-R-A, Pura, which meant on the eve of India's 54th Republic Day in 2003, Dr. Kalam addressed the nation expressing the need for P-U-R-A, Pura, which means providing urban amenities to rural areas. And Dr. Kalam, by giving the concept of Pura, wanted to say that let us not worry about degree of urbanization or level of urbanization. Let us make societies urban and rural equal by providing urban amenities in rural areas itself. Amenities means infrastructure, services, health, education, roads, connectivity. So we stop here.